What's going on, traders? How we doing out there? Welcome back to Start Swing Trade, where we take a look at the action underneath the hood. Where's the rotation going? Will tech rally here in the power hour? We got in a recent lift that just started lifting at 3 p.m. Now we're going right back to those lows. Will we take out those lows? Let's take a look into the market, especially the Qs here. As you guys are seeing, that bounce came right around the 370, went up there to 370 50s, now pulling right back to that 370. Will we get a lift here? Let's talk a little bit about what are we seeing underneath the hood. The SPY itself trying to take down back through the low here. You guys can see the low 443s there. So let's see what happens now. Will we get the takedown, right? That's one thing that I'm keeping a close eye on here as we're seeing, of course, some action going on and just looking around. I do have a position in Trade the Pool on ARM, so I'm going to be focusing on that. I have 56.95, so you guys see it. It's actually in the red right now. Was just slightly green. Keeping an eye on to see if we're going to hold 56.50s, but looking to see if we can get a little bit of a run here towards the end. That's my open position. I still have American Airlines. That's not looking good at all. It's still down. It didn't cut through the 13s today, but something that I'm definitely keeping an eye on there. All right, let's keep going in different areas of the market. Let's take a look what led the day, what got hit, right? Well, technology is now pulling back, but led the day. It's only up now 0.27, was up at one point about like 0.4, 0.6. So now we're seeing that starting to decline. Industrials also starting to decline, and communication services just barely green. Where were we red today? You guys can see it: consumer cyclical, healthcare names, and real estate. So these are the areas that we were red today. We got to keep an eye to see if these can continue going lower. Let's go to technology and see on the industry side how we were doing there. If you take a look at the industry side there, you guys can see that we do have certain things here deep into the red. We could keep an outlook on them, but as you guys can tell, consumer electronics leading the upside action. Then you got internet content information, semiconductor equipment stocks bouncing back after taking a major beating with the moves on ASML, and TSM is really what led that action. We'll see how those names are performing right now. You guys can see how those bounce back: ASML, AMAT bouncing back, LRCX, and KLAC bouncing back today. This one, the laggard one of the bunch, could get the move here towards the end. We'll see what happens there. Then if I look in the semiconductor space, I see NVIDIA up on the day. Overall, not a bad little bounce. Can it get back up through 441? That's kind of the levels that I'm looking for here towards the end of the day. A move back up above 441s, and maybe we can ride back towards 450s. Of course, a lot of this is going to depend on ARM overall. And full disclosure, I am long it. We'll see what happens if this can really start reversing. So one of the things I started seeing is when would we show up kind of like an inverse head and shoulders or something like that. So he finally got it here towards the 56 levels. Now we're starting to clear 57. Want to see if we can make a move to reclaim the opening price before the end of the day. That'd be 58.94. We come back to 59 before the end of the day. Yeah, we can maybe start getting NVIDIA to really kind of rock back towards 450s. Keeping an eye out on the market out there to see what happens with this one. Apple also made a nice lift to 179, now pulling back to 178. Microsoft not having the worst day, still just trying to battle. It's actually unchanged from the open here. Google gave a nice little uplift there and hanging in here on the daily charts. Not bad as long as it can hang with kind of the 9 EMA right now. So that's looking well. Big levels to watch to see if we can get back towards 139.55. That's where we can break above the 140 spot, but not looking too bad in our leadership. That's what let us down yesterday on Friday. The only area that I saw pretty weak was I saw Tesla pretty weak here. I wonder if that has anything to do with the autos and how that's going. We can take a look here at Stellantis. That's still holding on. Ford, pretty weak today. GM, pretty weak also. Did do bounces out the open that eventually got flushed down. We'll see what happens with that UAW, of course, labor issues, but also keeping an eye on the banks and everything that's going in the market today. And we'll see. Will we get some more labor issues? Now, one area that I was watching getting a little bit of a bounce back today was the industrial area. And you guys can see it here overall, or you can take a look at XLI, right? That's one way of taking a look at it. And of course, what are the leading stocks here? Well, Cat not having a bad day. You guys can see that did a nice little lift there to 282, then catching a little bit of some pullback action. Now UPS still down, of course. The Teamster kind of dealing with that. Honeywell trying to get a little bit of a lift there to 195. GE staying in the green here. Boeing going red. Thought maybe this could get back above the 207s today. Rejected it multiple times. Now going back to the 205. So that doesn't look good there. Deere trying to hang in here towards the end, seeing if it can close green. Not a bad stock to kind of keep an eye out. I've been looking to see if this could finally make a lift back through 420s. It did move back down to 400s. I missed that spot, an opportunity to get it multiple days in 400 last week. So now the next move for me, would it be to just go right back towards 420s? I don't want it back there to 400. I'm looking for the break above this high, 414, 415, going back to 420. Can't go wrong, right? We'll see what happens if it gets the lift or not. All right, catching up with you guys in the chat. If you guys see anything, a sector, an industry, something that's calling your name, let me know. That's what it's all about here. Hit the like button. Let's take a look now. ARM starting to get the lift, 57.34. Like I've mentioned, I need to see that thing close really strong if I'm going to swing trade it overnight. Lift to 59, and then I could take some profits and then really swing it overnight. We'll see what happens there on ARM. All right, let's keep going. What else is being called out there? Andres, good afternoon or evening from Madrid, Spain. I love it. Love it. What are you looking at, Andres? And Kevin from Lakeland, Florida. You see, we're all over the world, Benzinga, from all the way from Spain to Lakeland, Florida. And I've seen names come from all over the world. So it's good to have you guys in the chat today. Say hello and let me know what's your top stock you guys are looking at. Raz, then never feel neglected, man. The market ain't calling my name. Hey, just got to sometimes take it easy, right? When you feel like you're not in tune with the market, what's a very good way of getting back in tune is just taking it easy, hitting the brake pedal, trying to pay attention to where the prices are going, what the price action is telling you, and where the psychology is of the traders. That's why I always talk about psychology. And we talk about things like the maximum pain trade and how the psychology could be on the reversal side, right? That's why I was wondering. I mean, this morning, Kramer was out there bashing and saying that things look negative in tech. So I was like, are we just going to get like a rip rally coming back? We'll see. You know how Kramer likes to call the markets, and then all of a sudden they go the opposite direction here. Let's see what can happen. All right. Well, let's keep going in some other action there. I'm where Jack went ice fishing. Oh man. Lake what it I didn't even know how to say that. Whistletaw? Is that Wichita? Whistletaw? Wisconsin? I'll tell you one thing. Sounds like a good time at least. Jenny, you have a good time out there. And if you're on vacation, don't worry, the stocks will be there. Let's take a look at a firm. There are been stocks that have been ripping. Let's take a look at how that stock is performing on the day. Let's go to a firm here and take a look. If you guys have any stocks you guys want to take a look at, please throw them up in the chat. I'll take a look at them. You can see here, I drew this line, right? I wanted to see it kind of follow. Let's expand it and just keep it going, right? Look at the daily. You do get pullbacks below that, but it's not breaking the 9 EMA. That's why I like my light blue line versus just drawing a trend line. But this is staying strong and could keep going to the next levels. Next levels I have around 27, and then from there 30. So we'll see what happens on a firm. Another one that was looking good for a little bit of a setup here was Carvana, and it keeps going sideways off of this kind of 52 level. Let's see if this picks back up and gets through 52. If it can get back through 52 and 55, maybe you can take the next step up. Really wouldn't want it to break 50 because then you could cool back to this trend line. You never know when we can go back to 45. We'll see what happens there. You guys can also see the 50 moving average right around that trend line. So who knows? We could pull back to that trend line, but a firm not looking too bad. It's like Wisconsin and Minnesota put together. Wissoda? Wissoda. All right. Seems interesting. I have to check that out, Jenny. I'm going to have to do a little research. Macy's for a long. That's interesting to think about, because one thing that I've been looking at is for the consumer to slow down. And you guys are seeing Macy's is definitely extended, right? I mean, you're definitely weak there, but can you go lower? I think you can go lower. I wouldn't be calling the turn here, Mr. T, but if you could see that, hey, to each his own, right? If you think this is just too far extended down and this could reverse, hey, you might be in a good trade. My only concern is the consumer slowing down. And if that comes in, that should hit a lot of different department stores. Let's take a look at KSS. You guys can see KSS coming down pretty fast. If I look at JWN, Nordstrom also has been coming down pretty fast and doesn't look to be bouncing. But of course, these are near monthly lows. So maybe you start to see these stocks bounce. That's one thing that I'd be looking for first. But hey, to each his own if you want to front run the action. All right, EOG, talking about oil. Let's take a look at some oil names. Of course, I've been keeping an eye on oil overall. We've been keeping an eye on what? What is it that we look at, team? We always look at what? WTI, of course, to see how the oil prices are working there. And we're above 90s. Talked about how important that is. Staying above 90s is why I had to get out this morning on Trade the Pool. I did a little bit of a swing trade on, of course, MPC. That cost me a lot today. So other than that, I didn't really lose much today, but that's how it is. Sometimes you're going to make a swing trade and it isn't going to go in your favor. A lot of that action was what? Well, that action was that this morning on the 4 a.m., you went down to 91. Right around 5 a.m., you just started spiking right back and it came right back to 92. That, of course, is going to affect me negatively on a swing to the upside on oil. Now, oil looking like it wants to take another step up. So we'll see what happens here. I think you got to continue watching daily levels and making sure that you're not closing below the 90 EMA. So right now, this pullback is not a bad pullback, just needs to kind of hold this and get right back up there. So you can see how the trend line comes into play here. That's so important, right? As it can hold that trend line and come right back up to 135, it won't be looking bad. Back to 130s, I'd be concerned that this is starting to break down. All right, Apple mentioned in the chat. We can keep taking a look. And you guys out there, smash the like if you guys are enjoying the action. I am starting to get armed to lift here. So I do want to take a look at that as I'm starting to get a nice little push here. It's back to 57.75, almost 58 here. Now I'm going to look to see if it can lift through 58 and start working its way to 59. That's when I expect to start seeing the market kind of start catching a rally here. Nvidia starting to come back here. I'm going to take a look at the Qs. The Qs are starting to push a little bit. Let's see if Apple can get that next step up. Bounce here off the 178 area. Go back to 179. Google close strong. That's what I'd like to see. And even Microsoft. Get back into the green. It's in the green from the open. I'm going to continue to watch to say if this can stay in the green. And then Meta. Meta was one that keeps holding the 300 pullback that could take another step up here. As you're seeing it pull back to the 300, this is an important outlook. Can it hold the 300? We'll see what happens. All right, let's keep going. There's other stocks to kind of take a look at, and there's plenty of names out there. So let's keep rolling through and seeing what's getting into the green. All right, we can take a look here. Industrials, we've talked about some of those. Communication services starting to come back a little bit. Defensive names, what's doing well there? Well, the beverages companies aren't doing well. You got Bud getting a little bit of a bounce back, and I think it was what was it? Was it Bill Gates that got some Bud? I can tell you at least it's starting to look like it's reversing out of the downturn. So I'd be careful with Bud and Bud Light. Of course, like, you know, everyone was starting to get against those, but this could bounce and start to get back up there to 60s. I continue to watch it. Need to get to 60s for me to actually even maybe take a shot. But we're starting to get an uplift also in TAP. That could be a little bit of a trap there as we're seeing it kind of try to get back there to 66, 67. All right, let's keep taking a look there. WTI, we've already taken a peek. Square, I got no problem. I got you, man. I'll take a look at Square. Let's go towards that stock. Let's see how it's performing on the day. So Square's taking another leg down, and it just doesn't look good, guys. The weekly is what I've been seeing keep going lower, and it just shows me that even when you're getting uplift, even on a green week, you can't hold the support. Daily now going back to 51.50. This is kind of that expansion low. If it doesn't hold here, it could cut through and then make its way to 51 and below. This is one of those times where you had to give yourself at least some leeway if you wanted to come after this one. I know a lot of people were expecting kind of the 55s to hold, but it keeps going lower. And one thing to point to is PayPal doesn't look the best either, right? If you saw PayPal looking amazing, then I'd be like, all right, well, maybe this catches the lift. But PayPal doesn't look amazing either. It needs to get back above the 65s. There's kind of an inverse head and shoulders pattern here. I can see the right shoulder, left shoulder needs to get back through this kind of 65, 66 to reverse back into the green. Right now, PayPal's looking a little bit better than Square, but not anywhere where I want to be maybe taking a shot on these. It just seems like it's too weak. And I need to see things change in the story. Investors are not interested in it. At least that's what I can see on the charts. All right, let's keep going. We'll see what else is going on in Square. Maybe there's some news out there. I didn't catch it, but just going to keep going. Laugh out loud. I was only listening, and this was interesting. Bill Gates got some bud, but I heard it with a T. We'll see what else is going on. I think he was the investor that jumped into it. If I'm not wrong in that. Market saying Visa and MasterCard are the only fintech worth owning. Good mention there. Let's take a look at that MasterCard and see how it's performing. And you guys can see how that keeps going trending to the upside. Complete opposite trend of what we see in Square, right? Complete opposite trend. Look where Square has gone in the last, 2 years. And look how MasterCard has gone. Yeah, it hasn't been an amazing run, but I'll tell you one thing, at least it's continuing the trend. And that's what you want to be catching. Visa doing the same. Continuing the trend there on pullbacks. It doesn't look too bad. Now, when you take a look at Square, that's a whole nother ball game of a chart. It did try to lift. It got all the way up there to 80. Now it's down to 52. This just shows me you got to be careful with this stock, and something needs to change, something fundamentally. Right now, it's not the time. All right, not looking too bad. I just want to see ARM continuing to lift here, not pull back. So I'm tightening down my stop there on ARM. So if I do want to get out, I take a small loss, but just keeping a close eye on it. Let's go back to the Qs here. Are we lifting? We're at 370.46, starting to lift there towards the 371s. Would like to see the Qs close above that if we're going to get a push. NVIDIA now starting to push 439s, 446. Let's start to see if ARM can really get moving here and get through 58, get back through 59. And then, we can swing it. I'm up a decent amount right now, just looking for a little bit more. I'm at 56.95s. Really wanted to get back there to 59s so that I could be up like $2 there. And then I could take half off and let the rest swing overnight. We'll see what happens. All right, keeping an eye on some other stocks. What else you got? Google coming to life. You guys are seeing? All right, we'll take a look at that. Let's keep going to some other names. I did see Kathy Wood kind of taking a big hit today, down to 42. Growth names taking a big hit there. I saw Unity down big. I want to see if that one came back a little bit. It came back a little bit. You guys can see that here. NVTA also down big. CRISPR, TXG, Pacific Bioscience getting right back down. SHOP pretty weak. DNA pretty weak. So, of course, Kathy owns some Square, and that's not looking good for her as she keeps kind of adding to that, but it's just not going well. Tesla also in the red, of course, is not going to help Kathy. It just seems like the bigger names are just dragging right now in Kathy. And so take a look to see if maybe Zoom could come back or any of those, but it seems like it was a growth off type of day. Look at Roku. It made its way back there to 96. Now it's right back down to 74.50s and could break down. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's keep going. If you guys have any other tickers to throw up, throw them up. I'm going to just keep riding with the ones that I've been looking at, and we'll take a look at what else is going in the market. Wanted to take a look at some bank action just to see how the banks were doing today. You guys can see JPM pretty strong here and trying to break above the 149 and hold. That's actually a decent outlook for the market to start going up. The biggest concern for me is the KRE going lower and lower and seeing regional bank getting destroyed. What do you see today? The KRE is pretty weak, right? So we'll look to see if this can turn around. on some global banks starting to lift. But for right now, this is going lower. As it keeps going lower, what is it going to bring? It's going to be more warning that a regional bank could collapse. Names like TFC, names like RF. We don't know which one's going to disappear. We don't know what's going to happen there, or if any of them are going to disappear again. But I can tell you at least they're showing signs of concern, and a lot of them are looking like they're just leaking. All right, there's another name mentioned in the chat, Toast. Toast, I like better than probably Square and PayPal, right? Because it hasn't had that insane liftoff, right? It's been trying to catch some pullbacks. Of course, Toast very similar to Square and PayPal. Of course, we'll look to see if it get a move back. 21. Get it back to 21 and it starts to look a lot better, but it needs to reverse, right? I need to start seeing it wanting to take out this trend line. If it can take out this trend line, it won't be looking too bad. Get back up there like it wants to get there towards 24 and 25. Right now, it's just kind of on sideways off 200 moving average. All right, there's ARM trying to make its way to 58. So I'm keeping an eye on that. Now we'll be up about $1 and want this just to keep going. We'll see what happens. All right, Meta trying to get the little lift there through 302s. We'll see what happens on that one. If it can get the lift. Basic materials struggling all around here. Silver having a really horrible day. Agricultural inputs pulling back. Paper, where I do see some green, is in building materials, gold, and steel. Steel getting a little bit of a bounce. Wanted to see if those could continue, but Nucor going to a new low. And of course, they gave out a warning, right? And that's not a good outlook there for Nucor as it starts to come down to 154 and could continue to get hit there. X could be pulling back any moment now. We'll see if anytime soon there is actually a deal that deals with X. All right, aluminum also taking a major hit. Silver right back down. So be careful with agricultural inputs also, as I'm seeing the leaders there like MOS and CF not being able to move as of late. Coal is starting to get weak here at the top. So I'm keeping an eye out to see if any of these names reverse. Right now, it's still holding in there, still holding strong. Even like a name like HCC, we'll see what happens there. It's about 4 o'clock. The market just closed. So guess what, guys? I am on the swing here as we start getting some action here. Might sell some here, just about like half of it, just to make sure that I can at least take some profits there. Yeah, let me try to sell half of it here. All right, there you guys have it. I just sold half of that ARM position just to make sure that I could swing it overnight, at least taking some profits. Now we'll let this kind of keep going off 56.95s and look to see if it can keep climbing in the after hours. That's my swing for the day. Of course, be careful out there, team. I need to see the Qs continuing to push, especially in after hours. If those can push higher, NVIDIA start to really climb. That's what I want to see in ARM. I want to see NVIDIA get back through 440s. That's going to be the levels that I'll be looking at, especially tomorrow in the pre-market to see if we're above. If we're above 442s on NVIDIA, we'll be looking good to see if ARM could get a drive up and drive back to the highs. I'm just taking a shot on ARM because I know it's a fast mover, and I'm taking a shot. The key here is always keeping the risk in mind. We'll see what else is going on in the market. It's always a battle. I'll tell you what. I'll be here to battle along with you guys, of course. Start Swing Trade. Always here to talk about some swing trading action. Take a look into the rotation in the market. Today, we did see a little bit of a lift in technology, being able to hang on. Some of the major names not looking bad. Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon starting to climb back. Tesla was pretty weak. We had some horrible market breadth on Friday. Now we got some leaders to start coming back. Can we get some overnight action that leads tech higher? Well, that's one thing I'll be looking for. I'm actually taking a bet on that, right, with ARM. We'll find out what happens. Hit the like button, and I'll see you guys next time right here, of course, on Start Swing Trade. And you guys can always catch more. Catch me tomorrow morning on Pre-Market Prep as we take a look into the morning's action and everything that you need for the market open. See you next time right here on Start Swing Trade.